I'm Sue Theriault. I started out in early childhood education in 1977. I'm a real middle-class kid, and one morning, it seems my husband had left. I had a child who was about 2.5, and I woke up very ill one morning, ended up in the hospital, and I ended up on welfare. Wow. I thought that's got to be the worst thing in the world. And in fact, for me, it was pretty good. It set me on a journey. I ended up as a CETA aide in a Head Start classroom. Now, all of you are too young, I'm sure, to remember CETA, but that was the old version of welfare to work. And I went into a Head Start classroom working with 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. And on day one, when I walked in, I had a moment like, I was where I belonged. Maybe for the first time in my life, but I knew that I belonged there with young children. P.S., it was one of the worst early childhood classrooms I've ever been in, but I didn't know it at the time. I knew something was off, but I didn't know what it was. I knew that there were children in this church basement, which is where a lot of Head Start classrooms were those days, that were running around, that were fighting with each other, that were bored. There were a lot of crazy things going on. And as I learned more, and as I observed more, I said, it's right, this is where I belong. And so I went on a journey and became an assistant teacher, a lead teacher center director, and had the most wonderful experiences of my life working with young children and their families. Because the first lesson I learned was we cannot look at children outside the context of their families. And that's part of our presentation today. That's part of our message today, that this is something that we all have to work on together. I learned a lot, and I've gone on to do a lot of things, including teaching teachers in Haiti, including working on the National Head Start Training and Technical Assistance Network for several years, traveling all over New England, working with child care programs, Head Start programs. And now I teach at UMass Boston. I'm a teacher educator. Go figure that. I spend my time where I love to spend my time and how I love to spend my time, which is coaching teachers through their practicum. I visit them in the classrooms, which keeps me right near kids. The hardest challenge of this is not working with the teachers, but not talking to the kids all the time. I'm just so drawn to it. And when somebody comes up to me and says, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" It's really hard for me to limit my conversation and get to my work of observing. That's what I do. Other things that I do are consulting and coaching. I work with families as well as teachers in the public schools, in private child care, in Head Starts, and in family child care. I am in contact with families as often as I possibly can be. The end of this month, I go to Costa Rica to talk about my newest love, which is the development of the social emotional learning standards and approaches to play and learning standards for preschool and kindergarten children. We, a team of 3 others and I, developed that over a year, and that's the other big element of what we're going to talk about today is what are these social emotional learning standards? What do they mean for families and for teachers on an everyday basis? Okay with you? Yes. Well, I don't have them with me, but guess what? Yes, you can. And actually, I created a wiki for you guys that has the standards, that has a page of related articles, that has an extensive book list on social emotional development and play, children's book list. And I also put up our presentation. Is that good resource? Okay, watch the slides, and when we get to the slide with the website, with the wiki site, copy it down. Is that all right? Fabulous. I want you to go away here with everything you want and need. This young lady is my faithful assistant for today. She's my niece. And she's representing parents. By the way, I should also tell you that I also, in my Head Start days, I had a population of 40% children with special needs and bilingual. Hello? So it was really a learning experience for me, and I loved it. Yes, it was a challenge. So I'm here also to, and I want to let you know that I also have a child who lives with me. She is my granddaughter, and my daughter and granddaughter live with me. And my granddaughter, whose name is Sasha Rose, you'll hear that name again, has witnessed domestic violence and has PTSD, which often manifests itself and looks just like ADHD. Okay? Without further ado, Rachel Spector.
Can I just add that she also, when she does all this is what she does in real life too. This is how she talks to all of our children. This is how she talked to all of us growing up. It's how she still talks to me every day. You can hear it over the phone. My name is Rachel Spector. My background includes, this was not what was in my cards originally. I have a bachelor's degree in criminology and sociology. I have worked professionally for the state of Florida as a juvenile probation officer. I had all of the violent offenders and sexual offenders in the entire county. Yes, my youngest violent sexual offender was 5 years old. I had them up until they turned 22 and entered the adult system, transitioned over. I worked as a counselor and social worker for teenage girls who were considered at risk and were kicked out, for lack of a better way to put it, of their mainstream school system, and ended up in my alternative program. I worked with them, I worked with their families. Then I moved back up to Massachusetts about 13 years ago and have been working, or had been working, excuse me, for about 9 years at a Fortune 500 post-secondary technical school, teaching professionalism skills, teaching soft skills, customer service, employability, resume building, interview skills, and such, and helping with employment. I was an employment specialist. Now, I don't get a paycheck. I don't get praise at the end of my day. I don't get a yearly review with a salary increase. And this is what I do. I have, we'll get into a little more of what I really do on a daily basis, but I have 2 children. I have a 7-year-old, I have a 5-year-old. My 7-year-old has quite a few mental health diagnoses, and we'll get into them in a little bit.
Okay. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
So as you can see, her job description is most interesting, isn't it? Anybody recognize that? Okay, so 2 things. If you've come here for quick fixes for behavioral challenges, you're in the wrong place. We're going to talk about a proactive approach to children's social emotional development, which hopefully will prevent a lot of things. We're going to talk about things that you can do every day to create an environment that helps children to develop skills that will avoid those kinds of things. And we'll talk more specifically as we go along. So I'd like to know who's in the room. How many of you are families with children with disabilities? Yay, all right. I mean, yay, you're here. Sorry. How many of you are professionals? All right, whoa. Some of you are both. Your hands went up more than once. Great, okay, some of you are both. Teachers? Okay. Psychologist or therapist? Anything else? Who have I missed? Hi, Nanny. All right. By the way, I've trained nannies.
Good for you for coming here.
Yeah. Thank you. Say it again.
Ooh, excellent.
A pediatrician, hello. How are you? Thank you for being here. All right. So I want to begin by saying that all kids need stuff, right? So just out of curiosity, what do you all think that all children need? Somebody shout out. Love, yes. Acceptance.
Support.
Attention, play, thank you. Respect, security, attachment, confidence, relationships, boundaries. Say it again. Joy and respect. How many of you have all these things in your life? I hope, because we're expecting you to share it with children. Okay, what else? Structure. Real important, yeah. Okay, that's great. That's a great start. And when you think about it, this is something that maybe, as I've been reviewing this, I've used this slide a few times, and it says, all children want to have friends. Well, no, some children really don't. Do they? No. And by the way, those kids who don't want to have friends, we're going to talk about them a bit later. Those who avoid social situations. So let's say, and all children want to go to birthday parties. Not quite true, but most do, don't they? And how about, should we let a disability get in the way? Let's talk about disability for just a moment, or special needs for just a moment. I want to make sure that we are always using a particular kind of language. Just out of sheer curiosity, is there anyone here who knows the name Eleanor Grader Lewis? Eleanor Grader Lewis was the first person in Massachusetts to open a child care program that accepted children of all abilities and kept them. People would come from across the state and drive hours in the morning to get to her and present her with their children. She helped to develop the first regulations for childcare in Massachusetts, the first standards. She's also a very dear friend, a mentor, and the person who certified me to teach. And I was fortunate to know her. She's watching now. She promised she would always be there. Hi, Elle. And Eleanor said a lot of wonderful things. And what she taught me first was child-first language. When I walk into a classroom to see my teachers and I hear someone say, yeah, that's a Down syndrome child. That is a child who happens to have Down syndrome. That's the ADD kid. No way, not in my book. That's a child first. So I want to make sure we're always using, and you're always using, child first language. Okay? Those wants and needs that I talked about a minute ago on that slide, they all require something. They all require social and emotional development. You want to go to a party, you want to have friends, you have to know some stuff, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. As I mentioned before, I and a team of 3 other people spent 1 year developing, one intense year, developing the learning standards for social emotional development and approaches to play and learning, which we're not going to get to today, just social emotional learning, for the state of Massachusetts for preschool and kindergarten children. Many of them were written in my bed, under the covers at night. We really lived with these things, and I want to bring them alive for you. The tone that we had for these standards was, or the framework was, these were made, according to the state, for teachers. But it's bigger than that. We wanted them to be used with families. so that teachers and families could have a dialogue with a common language and common behaviors to look at. So whether you're a professional or whether you're a family member, you're in the right place. And these are for you. So why should we address social emotional learning to start with? Well, social emotional learning is, did I skip something, Rach?
No.
Or did I just get out of order? I think I got out of order. Social emotional learning is the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply knowledge, attitudes, and skills that are necessary to get along in life, understand and manage their own emotions, which the speaker before just did a wonderful job. Was anyone in the previous presentation? Oh, I'm so glad because she did a great prep, and you can hear some of those things reinforced. She was right spot on, and the reason I have this and I have to hold it is because the presentations I went today, I took notes to refer back to. So it is what's necessary to set and achieve positive goals in life and feel and show empathy for others, which we know is important, and establish and maintain positive relationships. Who said relationships? Does anyone know the class tool? Does anyone know CEFL, the pyramid model? Okay, oh, one in the back, all righty. These are terms that you will find and references that you will find on that wiki in those materials that provide some wonderful information for you, whether you are a family member or a teacher. And also, making responsible decisions requires all of these social and emotional skills. So what is social and emotional learning? I did it again, didn't I? I did it again. Why should we address it? The research, and we did extensive research for our project, social emotional well-being is so essential that it predicts how we're going to do in life. It predicts whether we're going to get along with people or not, whether when we walk in for an interview, we know how to handle ourselves. It really predicts how well we're going to do in school, because kids with higher social and emotional skills tend to do better in school in the long run. And it facilitates supportive developmental relationships with adults and other kids. And, you know, the classroom teacher's relationship with the child is absolutely key. And by the way, the younger the child, the more important that is. If you're a professional and you're having positive, great relationships with kids, I don't mean you're inviting them home for dinner. You know, we're not talking about that. But we're talking about making eye contact. And we're talking about showing them that we're with them. And we're talking about listening to what they have to say. And we're talking about all of those things that build positive relationships. When I go to a friend's house and they say, "I'm so glad you came today," I think about my teachers in school who see each child come in and say, "Jeremy, you made it today." Jeremy may not be that person's favorite child, by the way. By the way, with me, it was always a boy with a J name. It was Jeremy, Jose, Joseph.
Watch it later.
Yeah, she's got one, by the way.
And she loves him and is amazing with him.
I love him to pieces. And those teachers make that child welcome. "You remember where to sign in, don't you?" they say. "You remember to hang up your coat," they say. And all of these things build relationship and trust. That's why it's important. Oh, by the way, the last one that says self-management skills are critical. Amen. We know that. Because we all know adults who don't have great self-management skills, don't we? And they're even more pronounced than when we see them with young kids. So those development of self-management skills, absolutely important.
I'm stapled here in an order if you need it.
That's okay. Thanks. So in the research that we did, and by the way, that research will be online for you, as well as a synopsis. We've given you all our materials that we can possibly spare. There's a significant body of work that clearly states that building these skills in childhood, and we're going to, again, we'll talk about them, really make a difference throughout life. Mental health, which in many of the sessions we've been talking about today, general life satisfaction, being able to earn a living, being able to take risks and take on a new job, being able to quit a job and go on to something else with a sense of self-confidence and assurance that I'm going to do okay, it's all right. P.S. I routinely reinvent myself every 5 to 10 years, and that takes a lot. And it also affects our physical health. Stress, which can do this to us, right? Stress, which can cause us heart problems. Stress, which can do a number of things. P.S. My blood pressure's just fine, thank you. All of those things are affected by your early social emotional learning and your continued social and emotional learning. And by the way, most schools, in most states, they have social and emotional learning standards, but for older kids. A little late. Because the time you develop them is here. This is when you develop them. When you say, oh, look at you. Good morning. That's when it starts, with attachment. Oh, by the way, it starts in utero. It's true.
It's true with mine, but just so.
Yes, that's right. On the autism spectrum, there's a deviation from that. Yes, there's a deviation from that. And that's how we begin to notice that, this is not the absolute norm. Let's look deeper. Okay? Thank you for pointing that out. Crime and a person's likelihood of engaging in crime, also affected by those things. So I think that's a really important thing to remember. And by the way, in order to get this stuff right, collaboration is really important between families and professionals, the teachers and others who deal with your children, who engage with them every day and develop relationships with them to work. It's important they have consistent messages whenever they can that are positive and life-affirming. So who teaches children? Oh, that's mine. That's my Sasha Rose.
And that's her rah-rah that she's had since she was born.
That's the teddy bear.
My
yes.
goodness.
Yeah, that was the teddy bear that greeted people at her mother's baby shower. She's 7, okay? So, by the way, we did take the bear for a well checkup at Build-A-Bear. He's now newly stuffed, and that bald patch here with the little rip in it, well, let's just say he now has an implanted furry chest, okay? All right. So, and he still sleeps with her, okay? So who teaches children? Families first. Families are a child's first teacher. Anyone worth their salt who works with a family respects that role, shares what they know about the child in the most positive terms. I remember being called in for a conference about my daughter. And the teacher said, I'm really not happy with what's going on here. What do you think my reaction was? Whoops. She's very distractible. She talks too much. I don't know where she gets that. So that was a not kind of disrespectful of my role as teaching her, right? Oh, you're a kid, let me tell you. And so I began to look at the way I spoke with parents. And when I say, let me tell you about your child, I'm going to find those things that child does well. I'm going to find the things that child likes. I'm going to find the things that child is interested in. Okay, he's not writing his name. We're not going there. But you know that he can write 3 letters. Isn't that wonderful? That's where we go. To appreciate each child and each child's individual abilities. Go ahead, Rach.
My son is now in 2nd grade. One of my sons, when he went to kindergarten and he started kindergarten, it was 3 months before anyone said anything positive to me about my child. 3 months. The person who it was happened to be the occupational therapist. And what she said to me the first time I met her was, "Oh my God, I love your son so much. He is the sweetest little boy I've ever met." Because he is genuinely one of the sweetest little boys you will ever meet in your life. At the time, we knew there was something going on. We didn't know what. And all we knew was that he could not control himself for anything at all. So he got in a lot of trouble. He talked back a lot. He manipulated what the teacher and the principal would say to him to turn it around, and he would say, "Well, this is what you told me," and it was exactly what they told him. But he couldn't follow the directions the way they were intended. He followed them the way they were said, because he wanted to prove that he was smarter than them. But it was 3 months before anyone said anything positive to me about my child. It was awful. I still see her. She comes and gives me a giant hug every time I see her. She changed my life. She made my experience at this school, which now I love, but she made my experience as a parent sending my child to kindergarten for the first time better than it was. And that's why what you're saying is so important, because as a parent, what are you most insecure about? Your parenting skills. You always feel you're doing something wrong. So to be validated and have someone say, "Hey, I love your child," that's what you need.
Helps. And especially if the child has a behavior issue.
Exactly.
That's what really is. So that kind of makes the case for strong relationships, not only with the children, but with their families. So all of these things are factors that are educating each and every child. Oh, especially media, electronics. I got a new phone. I think I should give it to a 4-year-old to teach me. It's amazing, their literacy. You know, their technological literacy is amazing. They may not even know what they're reading, but they know how to get stuff. Hopefully it's only YouTube videos for children and nothing else. So young children experience the world in an environment of relationships. This is one of my favorite Yuri Bronfenbrenner quotes in the whole world. "A child requires progressively more complex joint activity with one or more adults who have an irrational, emotional relationship with the child. Somebody's got to be crazy about that kid." That's number one. First, last, and always. That to me, I got goosebumps again. Every time I get goosebumps, because it is true. And as a teacher, I've had children come to me who have nobody who's crazy about them. And that's hard. So we create it. We create a relationship in which the child can flourish. So I want you all to be that person for the children in your lives, in your homes, and for the children in your extended family or your real family, and for those of you who are professionals, for all the children you encounter. So I want now for Rachel to briefly tell you the story of Jake and Matthew.
So this picture is a couple years old, but these are my guys. These are the loves of my life. I was never an emotional person, ever, in my entire life. I hate crying. I am the person who will be at funerals making inappropriate jokes. I'm crying. I can't talk about my kids without crying. So I apologize if I get choked up a bunch. So I gave you my credentials. I told you a tiny bit about my background. 2 years ago, I was working at this giant Fortune 500 corporation, being watched from our home office in Arizona, being offered jobs, being scouted by multinational corporations, for six-figure salary jobs. And then about 2 years ago, my entire bottom fell out from underneath me. We knew things were building up. And one day at work, I got a phone call saying, I don't really know what to do. I'm in the middle of the street, and Jake won't get up. My mother-in-law got Jake off the bus. Jake was in kindergarten at the time. She used to get him off the bus every few days. And he decided that he didn't want to walk home one day. The bus stop is like from here to the top of the stairs. He didn't want to walk home. So he lied down in the middle of the road, not the side of the road, the middle of the road, and refused to get up. My mother-in-law's a little older, and she could not physically pick him up. He's not like a big kid, but he's a solid kid, and he's muscular. He's very strong, he's very solid. She couldn't pick him up. So I was working about 40 minutes away from home and had to get home. By the time I got there, he had moved to my driveway, and we had taken it from there. But at that point, I realized that the situation we were in was unsafe. We were on 2-year waiting lists at one hospital for evals. We were on a 6-month to a 1-year waiting list at another hospital for an eval. And because of my insurance, I couldn't get any evaluations for him because nowhere accepted my insurance. I couldn't get anything, I couldn't get anywhere. And finally realized that we were at a point where we were unsafe, and I had to leave my job.
Excuse me for a minute. Does anybody recognize this? Anybody been through the? Oh, hello. I see some hands. Yeah, this is not an uncommon.
So my career was on the fast track, and it was a big deal. I was kind of a big deal, and now it's not. It's not at all. I would not change it, by the way. I would not change 1 second of it. My son is now 7. He's about to be 8 in a couple months. And his official diagnosis is ADHD combined type with sensory processing disorder. His main sensory is the auditory. So anything that he can hear, and he hears everything, is a huge trigger for him. Anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and they believe 100% that he will be developing bipolar disorder and that it is there and present. However, because he's so young, they don't want to officially diagnose it because they don't want him labeled. I support that. We're okay with it. We just know to treat the symptoms in a certain way and act accordingly. In addition to all this, he has a genius IQ. So you would think, look at that little face. How can you think, all this stuff's going on inside that little head? It started when he was about 3 or 4 years old and he couldn't sleep at night, and he would cry hysterically in his bed that he couldn't sleep because he couldn't get his brain to stop going. One time he was 4 years old. We're not a big technology family in my house. I don't have a printer. We're not big on that stuff. My husband doesn't even know how to check email. And one time we were at the doctor's office at his pediatrician's office. She was trying to print up a prescription for him, and her printer wouldn't work. So he went in, my 4-year-old went in and fixed her printer. Just figured it out, because that's how his brain works. My 4-year-old, she couldn't fix it. So all this stuff kind of works against him, and you never know what's going to surface, what's going to pop up at any given time. It's just kind of like living in a giant surprise party. Sometimes it's easier to deal with than others. Sometimes it's not. He goes through phases where he's having a really great 2 weeks and he hasn't gotten in trouble at school. I haven't gotten called to go pick him up because they can't safely put him on the bus. He hasn't attacked me, because we went through that for a while, where he was physically attacking me. I am the only one, by the way, that he has ever attacked and ever been violent with. I am lucky. I'm his safe place. I say that jokingly. I really, truly believe that, because I don't ever have to worry about him hurting his brother, because he hasn't. I don't have to worry about him being unsafe with other children. I only have to worry about him being unsafe with me or with himself. With himself was the scary part, because he went through a phase last May, actually, where he was banging his head on a wall so hard that he would bleed. And I had to stop him. I have a very, very bright career ahead of me as a bouncer, because the amount of times I've had to restrain him, and I'm sure there's people here that can relate to that. His psychiatrist, every time I go into Boston, or come into Boston, because I forgot I'm here.
Yeah.
Every time I come into Boston to see his psychiatrist, she still laughs at me, because last summer, one time he was charging at me, and I saw the look on his face, and I knew it was happening, so I kicked my flip-flops off and just like readied myself. And she laughs at me and makes fun jokingly, you know, it's all in good humor, that she can't believe I was able to react so quickly. I'm the only one that can do it. I'm his mother. With all of this going on, we're very, very lucky. We have a great support system. It is in my house, myself, my husband, and again, our little 5-year-old, Matthew. But the tough part, there's a lot of tough parts. I mean, you all know, it's tough. There is no amount of coffee that can give you the energy you need to keep up with these guys.
Excuse me. And she's the Energizer Bunny.
I am.
Can you tell this?
But I have to
Yeah.
be. And it's interesting that you say that, because with my dad, I'm very close with my parents. And when I say very close, I mean I bought a house 2.5 miles away from them intentionally. My dad told me the other day that he's concerned because I don't know how to relax. Well, I don't know how to relax because that's not my life. And that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. You go read your book. I'll be over here running down the street.
Okay. So in addition to this, I need to point out Jake's dad.
That's where I was going next.
Go for it, very quickly.
Also has ADHD. I can't even sit on the couch and watch a movie with him because he shakes his leg and I get motion sick. Getting him to be patient with Jake, you would think he would get it and would understand, so he would have more patience. He doesn't. He's an amazing father. He is an amazing provider. I am so lucky to have him. Because he has the ADHD as well, he has a lot of trouble with his patience. So then it becomes all on me. He also works a lot. He works so many extra hours to pay these bills because I was the breadwinner. Oh yeah, did I mention that? I was the breadwinner. He's a cook. He works very, very hard. He's an amazing man, but he doesn't make great money. So he has to work overtime just in order to hope that we pay our bills every month. It affects Matthew a lot, and that's really tough for us because we don't know what to do. We don't know how to help Matthew because Jake's his idol. He's his big brother.
She's going to tell some stories a little later on about what that family dynamic is and how Matthew is affected by this. Yes?
Absolutely, we do. We went through phases with that, and it goes up and down and back and forth, and like I said, you never really know what to expect from it. He tends to do well at places that are busier, and then when we get home, everything's awful. We went to Disney World, and his psychiatrist couldn't believe that he did great a couple years ago. He was the model child. We got home, and it took me 3 months to get him back to where he was. 3 months.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Quick, just last weekend, we went to a birthday party, and the first room that you went into was an open room that had a loud echo, and he flipped out. He couldn't handle it. He started panicking. All of the kids are looking at him, and I mean, it's an 8-year-old birthday party. He couldn't do it. I had to take him out, and they're trying to get him to go through it. I just let him go. So I do a lot of letting him lead what he can and can't handle at this point. Mm-hmm. Yep. I I present the opportunity. Do you want to try it? And I try really hard to encourage him to try it. But if at the end of the conversation he's saying, I don't think I can handle it, and that's his words, he says to me, I can't handle it. And as soon as he says handle, that's his buzzword, and I know. So my advice would be just pay attention to his buzzwords. Find out what his buzzword is.
And he's fortunate to have a lucky first teacher.
Thank you.
Do you all know that intense crisis care coordinators are available in Massachusetts? And you can get a crisis team for yourselves?
She doesn't think she's there.
No, I actually, about a month ago, his psychiatrist was brought up residential to me. And I believe in residential when appropriate. I am not going to say I don't think it's a good thing. In my personal situation, I don't think it's the right thing at this time.
Crisis care coordinators, they come to your house and they set up a safety team, and they teach your child and you the behaviors you need to get through a crisis, and they also have a hotline to send help to you.
I think you're going to talk to her after this. We'll talk to her.
Come to the parking lot and help you get home.
Yep, we almost used them a couple times, but I was able to control it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning
Thank you
that.
for sharing that. It would be nice to have that information. Is there a booth out there for them by any chance? Do you have a booth out there?
I don't work for them, I'm just a customer.
Oh, I don't work for them. I'm just a customer. I play one on TV, though.
Faded from a lot of behavior,
Good for you.
Yeah.
and I let someone follow me like a little duck most of the time, and I know his cues, and I know what I can and can't handle,
That's great.
and it's through Mass Health.
Could you please say the name again so everyone can hear it again?
Intense care coordinator, mine's through Bay State Mental Health. My son is down, so he doesn't actually have a mental health diagnosis, but, anxiety is what triggers him out of control situation. He doesn't understand sensory overload, and he goes off. So
Yep.
I call the intense care coordinators, and they come to your house and they build a team around you and your needs, and they train you and your child out of this, out of this crisis
Yeah.
mode that you've got going on. And my son has had an episode well, he had one during the storm a couple weeks ago, under the kitchen table, shaking,
Oh, yeah.
very upset for the night, but that was a controlled situation, pretty much.
Good.
What was gonna happen if the thunders, we're gonna have to call somebody. But
Yeah.
it didn't, so I didn't, but probably a year and a half since he's had battle royal.
Good for you.
Thank you for sharing that with us, with all of us. Thank
Agreed.
you. So I'm going to go to the standards. These are a powerful tool for looking at what we teach our children. All of us as educators teach our children. Just FYI, I've already told you most of this. There, by the way, is the wiki site for you. So I'll leave that on there for a minute, and I've kind of told you most of that. It was a joint effort. It's been accepted by the state. It is now there, and they're beginning to introduce it to schools. It covers the preschool years and kindergarten. So let's look at what it is. You need more time? It's okay. This is not a test, and spelling does not count. Oh, yeah, it
But
does.
it's
You
on-
won't get
isn't it
there
on-
if you don't
It's on the
spell it
handout,
right.
though, isn't it?
What?
Is the wiki on the handouts?
No, it's not on the handout. By the way, you can download the slides if you need them from that wiki, provided I give you enough time to write down the address. Put this wiki right there, http://SEL- Who needs more time? I could sing, no, I won't. So here's what we did. We looked at all the literature. We looked at all the research. We spent days and nights with documents from other organizations, from other states who had already created them. We critiqued everything. We got in touch with national experts, Sharon Lynn Kagan from Columbia, Stephanie Jones from Harvard University, Stephanie Jones, Mary Lou Hyson, formerly of NAEYC, Betty Bardage, who's a developmental psychologist and author, and Angel Fettig from UMass, and a bunch of others. And we looked at what is this, what are these things, what are they saying, and what can we look at for how we're going to guide people to work with young children to develop their social and emotional learning skills. And so we came up with these areas, these buckets to put things in. We determined that there is a buckets of skills that they kind of need. Buckets is probably not a good word, but we're going to use it for now. First of all, a child has to develop self-awareness. This self-awareness opens them up to learning about other things, but if we don't know here, we can't apply it to anything else. Social awareness. We can't get to the social till we know the self. So we looked at the internal and the external. We looked at self-management skills and included those because we know we need those, right? And then we talked about, well, wait a minute, relationship skills are there. How do children relate to others? This tells us something about who they are, about how they're developing, about what they need to know. And then finally, the most sophisticated of all of these is responsible decision making. So we'll talk about these standards and what are some tips. What children who are learning these things, what do they need from the adults around them? That's you. So this is a peek inside the standards. This is kind of what they look like. It's an example. You will see that there's a description. The standard will be stated. That one is SEL1. The child will be able to recognize, identify, and express his or her emotions. There will be a description above it. And then by the end of preschool, this is not a checklist. This is a lens for you to look at the child. By the end of preschool, a child may recognize and label basic emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, and associate them with words. We count on you to teach them the language. We'll tell you about that. Facial expressions and/or gestures. And by the end of kindergarten, a child may be able to label basic emotions and associate them with facial expressions, body language, behaviors, etc. This one, I only chose to show you one bullet. There's only so much room on a slide, but there are several bullets under each. So these are indicators just to kind of look at what are some of the behaviors. One of the things, each one of us on the team has our own special interests. And one of the things, I was the overwriter that made sure that on every page, every word was applicable to all children. And so we decided to publish that. And we decided to say that each child may require differing levels of support based on their ability, learning style, culture, family, and experience to progress developmentally. We wanted to remind everyone who looked at these standards that each child is unique, that each child comes with different skills, that we build on those skills, and they may require different types of support. Here's the first standard. The child will be able to recognize, identify, and express his or her emotions. This emotions chart, by the way, you can just find online. Google it. Google emotions charts. You'll find 100 different ones. I have a particular preference to using real kids' faces rather than drawings. I think it's easier for them to connect to. So what is this self-awareness? It's the ability to understand and label emotionals. This is foundational to interacting with others, to forming friendships and relationships with others. And also it's critical to school success because those relationships, being able to learn from your peers, being able to teach your peers, being able to relate to the teacher, being able to understand and communicate with others is absolutely important to a satisfying and successful life. So children need adults in order to develop this who create a safe and comfortable environment, whether it's the home environment or the school environment. So what does that mean? It means that when they come in the door, they're welcomed, they feel secure, they are physically safe, but they're also emotionally safe. When kids' feelings are not well managed, thinking can be impaired. We want to make sure that kids feel welcome. Then it's okay to express your feelings. So the child who comes in to a classroom at 4 and their mother leaves and stands there like this, clutching onto their coat and their mittens fiercely, that child is experiencing something. We have to make sure that we say, we recognize you have an emotion, and we respect it. But if we come to that child and we say, oh, don't cry, everything's okay, do you think that kid feels that way? I don't think so. That child feels something that is not okay. My mom's gone, especially on the first day. When will she be back? Will she be back? Now, when you look at the variety of children who may enter a classroom on any given day, you may have children who are homeless, and you may not know it. You may have children who've been couch surfing. By the way, I worked with an organization for the homeless for a while as well. I thought I knew about a lot of things about life. I realized how much I didn't know. That child may have very serious abandonment issues. They're disenfranchised. They've lost their home. They may have lost their toys, their puppy, their connection to community and culture. And they're there at your door. What do I do now? So they have to feel safe and secure and know that someone will come over to them and say, acknowledge their feeling, name the feeling, and help support them to move on to something else, make them feel comfortable. And by the way, it's not okay to hug every kid. It's not okay to hug every child. But you can ask, do you need a hug? And so to say, whoa, you're crying. When I cry, it means I'm either sad or frustrated. Are you sad? And to begin a dialogue about what that child is experiencing. Not every child can answer. Not every child will answer, and don't expect it. Some children are verbal, some children are not. Some children at that point are capable of expressing emotion verbally, have the language for it, some don't. When I cry, I need a hug. Do you need a hug? I'm here whenever you need one. It's the beginning of developing a relationship and showing that child that there's something secure for them. Now, I'm going to add 3 words. For most children. Okay? Because not all. Offer words and language for feelings. Model strategies for handling strong feelings. Excuse me. Read and discuss stories about emotional issues. Tell stories from a book and real life situations. I remember the first day I went to school. I do, by the way. It's a long time ago, darlings, a long time. But I remember, I was do not laugh. I was a very shy child. Is anyone laughing? They're laughing. This is classic overcompensation, guys. Just classic overcompensation. I was a very shy child, and that first day in kindergarten, I was terrified. Terrified. I went to the Edmund P. Tileston School in Mattapan, and my teacher's name was Miss Quinn. And I loved her because she accepted that I drew a clown with purple hair on its legs. That's another story. However, I want to use one word that I want you to remember on every one of these that we go through. I'm going to use it 3 times. You ready? Books, books, books. Books can open a whole world of understanding for kids, can help them work through issues. Books are absolutely something that is just implicit in everything we do. Some children don't like books. It's okay. But whether you're reading books to them or writing books with them, social stories, etc., books can be really mind-opening for the children. So retelling different stories from different characters' viewpoints. Heard the word empathy and perspective. This is the beginning of a more complex set of skills. Those things become important if you intend to have relationships with other people. Those things become important if you intend to resolve conflict. Those things become important if you're helping to make a decision that's going to affect what the class does or the family does down the road. So books are important. Changing perspectives are important. Having children identify the emotions of characters and stories, and also having them retell the stories from different viewpoints. Yes?
How do you change their perspective? I'm trying. How do you teach them that, just because you don't want to go do something, your friend wants you to do that. You need to take turns. You need to, no matter how many times I try to show them. How do you do that?
When,
Almost 6-year-old.
well, it depends on the child. If the child is able to communicate in such a way that you can engage him or her in problem solving or negotiation, fine. We're going to go down the road a little bit with this and see if you can find some strategies, okay? This is hard. Hello, my name is Sue, and I know lots of people who are almost my age who still can't take another person's perspective.
One of them's her brother, my dad.
Oh, I was thinking of the other brother. I would never say that about your dad.
You got a few to choose from.
Okay.
Can I just add real quick to that?
Sure, sure.
It seems so simple. The golden rule in my house is something that is everywhere. Anyone could walk up to my 5-year-old and say, "What's the golden rule?" Treat others the way you want to be treated. Well, do you think that you're treating Jackson the way that you would want Jackson to treat you? How would you feel if it's honestly repetition?
Yeah.
Yep. Right. Right. I use it with them because it worked with me.
And it's easier to practice with a favorite teddy bear.
Yeah. Write it down and make it visible.
Or Elmo. Yes, I use teddy
Make it
bear
visual
because you
for
saw that one who lives with me, that bear. So, okay.
Try making it visual and visible to him. But then that's even better. Get like a wall hanging in your house that says treat people the way you want to be treated. Put it in his room. Have him make a sign and paint it.
Thanks, Rach. Okay, so social emotional learning standard 2, the child will demonstrate accurate self-perception. Here's an issue. Kids' beliefs about themselves, whether they're positive or negative, and by the way, at a certain age, some children will come home and say, "I'm stupid," because there's something they're not getting yet, or they'll say, "I don't feel very smart." Here's where you come in. You can share with them positive ways. Well, I'll get to that in a minute. This self-perception can greatly impact their motivation to learn, their motivation to engage with other children in social and adults in social interactions, and they are especially influenced by the feedback they get from important people in their lives, you all. So that's something absolutely key. They need an accurate appraisal of their own value and their own abilities, their strengths, their capabilities, and their own accomplishments in order to be able to look at the accomplishments and strengths of others. So this is absolutely key. So they need adults who encourage them to do as much as they're able to do, who don't talk down or dumb down things for them, who urge them to attempt challenges and reflect on their previous successes. I remember yesterday when you use that strategy in the Legos. Do you think you can do it over here? Let's try it. Or giving them opportunities to identify what they like. What was the best thing about school today? I had so much fun at the zoo with you. What did you like best?
We do that every single day in my house. We call it favorite part of the day. And,
Yep.
Every single one of us. It's usually me and my kids. My husband works nights, so it's usually me and the boys. Favorite part of your day. You know, and all I say is, hey guys, know what it's time for? Favorite parts of the day. Because it means they have to think, and they're lazy. They don't want to think about it. They want to just move on. They want to eat their dinner. But I do it. I make a point to do it because I feel like it's so important. Stop, think back about something in your day that was good. Because as the parents, we know it is very, very easy to fall into that rut. Every single day, you must find something positive in your day. As a parent, as a child, as a human being, you have to.
So you know I do that with Sasha, right?
Oh, yeah.
We have pillow talk. Sometimes Sasha has trouble sleeping. In fact, she almost always has trouble sleeping, and that's part of the PTSD and the domestic violence stuff that was in her past, so from the time she was very young. And so I often go in, I might lay down with her for a few minutes, or if she comes to my room and she says, yeah, I need some pillow talk. Okay, so I go in. And she always is asked, what was your favorite part of today? And she'll sometimes make me tell first. That's okay, I love to do that. You know, that's one of the things is about gratitude and being grateful for what you have and what you've done and finding something positive. And then I will always ask her, what was your most challenging part of the day? Or what didn't you like about today? What was hard? And she will tell me as well. Sometimes she doesn't want to talk about it. That's when the mental notebook comes out and I take a note. And usually by the end of the pillow talk, she'll come out and tell me. I kind of circle back to it a little bit. Pillow talk is a wonderful thing. In fact, I think I have an article about pillow talk that I'll post on that wiki. It's a great strategy to use with kids. And by the way, it's also if you're a child care provider, a teacher, and your kids nap, that's also something that those kids who have trouble sleeping, you might sit down with them while you're rubbing the back and very quietly talk about those things. They are very influenced by the feedback that they get from other people in their lives, so make sure you're giving them positive feedback. And we're going to talk about strategies for that. By the way, Rachel and I have, what time are we done?
5.
I think I'm going to be sick. We have about 3 hours worth of material for you, and we wish that you could stay, because I would stay.
I would not. I would like to see my children today. Sorry.
Bummer.
They're cute.
Acknowledge and celebrate children's growth and social skills. I'm going to skip in a few minutes to go down to say how to positively do that and avoid the old cliche responses. We'll get there. Display culturally relevant materials, and I mean that. Make sure that if you're in a classroom, that you have materials that reflect a variety of cultures because your kids are exposed to it. And even if you don't have that represented in your classroom, the real world has it. And that should be books and pictures on the walls and all the dolls and all that kinds of things. And make sure there are equal opportunities for all children to take part in activities, whether indoors or out. One of the most challenging parts for a child with a physical disability, particularly a mobility issue, is on the playground. They are not special needs friendly. By and large, but there is a group here that talked about that today, and I can't remember the name, but
Play. It had the word play in it.
yeah, and the
Play Brigade.
Thank you, the
Thank
Play
you.
Brigade, and they were wonderful. I was so excited
Phenomenal.
talking to them. One of the assignments I give some of my
cried.
students is in their final practicum, I ask them to look at their internship site and the outdoor play area they have, rate it for accessibility for all children, and redesign it. Now, the redesigns don't usually get implemented, but at least they've thought about it. and their awareness is heightened, and that's real important. The child will demonstrate self-efficacy, confidence, and
Isn't that the best picture?
Confidence. What was that?
Everyone's laughing at the picture because it's
Oh,
cute.
is she fabulous?
I love this picture.
She's fabulous. I couldn't resist her. Confident children are willing to take reasonable risks, express or defend their ideas, and try new experiences. Well, what's wrong with that? I think that's really great. I want to talk about risks for a minute. Those risks, when I was in Haiti teaching, and I used that statement, of course, I had to have somebody translate because I don't speak the language. However, they talked about things like natural disasters. They talked about things like crime. Those were the realities in their lives. I'm talking about the kind of risk here. It's quite different. That says, I'm going to take a risk and talk to these people. For some children, that's huge. Let me tell you quickly about Sasha Rose. Sasha Rose goes into a room, even with our family when it's a huge, at Hanukkah,
Huge family. We have a huge family.
Huge celebration. She will go in and stand.
With Rara, by the way.
With Rara, quietly, and just watch. At first I used to try to encourage her, but I understand now what's going on. See, we only see what they're doing. We don't see what they're thinking, and we don't see what they're feeling. It's this big iceberg. We just see the very tip. And when she's ready, she will join them. She'll even put Rara down. Here, Yaya, and she's gone.
And she plays hard.
Yes, she does.
She plays hard with them. She runs around with the rest of them.
But when she has reached her comfort level.
She has to be ready.
And that goes right back to her early experiences, seeing that it's safe. So there are social risks. There are academic risks. I know I can put 4 blocks up, 5 blocks up, 6, but every time I put that next one, it falls. I don't want to do it. That's a risk for that child. Whether it's the blocks or reading a word out loud, that's an academic risk. I don't want to be embarrassed in front of anybody. What if I get it wrong? And so implicit in this is the risk to fail and the risk to succeed. Because I'm successful all the time, they're going to expect more and more and more of me. And that's scary too. And also to be able to fail without fear of criticism. Ah, there you did it again. If I've told you once, I've told you 100 times. Don't drop the on the floor. I told you, you have to reach higher to do that. We have to think about our language and how we're talking to them and what that means. Oh, I didn't get on to the next one. Hello.
Can I just add? I used
absolutely.
to get really frustrated when I was working. It was like I would get home and I would leave my house at 4 in the morning and I would get home at 5 at night and still have to cook dinner, do all the nighttime stuff. I saw my kids for 2 hours a day. So I was, in that 2 hours, I was trying to get so much done. And if they spilled their milk or water, at dinner, it was, oh, now I have to clean this up. And in my head, it's, who cares? And I literally repeat to myself, in my head, there's no use crying over spilled milk. Because who cares if I have to take that extra minute and a half to clean it up? Because he made a mistake. It's an accident. No big deal. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail. And you need to know that that's okay. My 5-year-old is a daredevil, but he is a super fraidy cat. So he is the most accident-prone child. At 5 years old, he's had about 4 trips to the ER already, just because he's a daredevil. But he's terrified to try new things because he's afraid that he's going to fail. He reads at a 2nd grade level. His teacher had to go to my other son's class to get material for him to work on. And he will not read in front of people because he's afraid of how he's going to look. I'm the only person he'll read in front of. Did you know that? I'm the
No.
only person he'll read in front of.
Now
He's afraid.
Think about a child who comes to, if you're a professional, your classroom, who speaks another language. How scary might it be to utter those foreign sounds? By the way, I taught in a bilingual Head Start classroom. I did not speak the language. However, those kids talked to me, and every year I would have one or two children who would appoint themselves my teacher. They would, whether the other children were laughing because of my mistakes, and I loved making mistakes, or not, they would correct me gently. And it gave some of the other children who were had less command of English, it gave them permission to make mistakes as well. So it's a great opportunity for me. I did learn to say, siéntese por favor. Llave sus manos. I learned to say a lot of things. They taught me well. One of my favorite classroom experiences. And remember something else. That child who needs to develop self-efficacy and confidence may go into that classroom knowing, I'm different. I'm different. I don't sit the way other kids sit. Or, I have these things on my legs. Or, nobody else wears glasses. And that I'm different by the way, I really was a shy kid. It's hard to feel different. Oops, hello. And once they have positive support, we can hopefully change that different to unique, which is a whole other world that opens up. So, I'm going to go, oops, hello, don't go back, go forward. Child will demonstrate impulse control and stress management. By the way, Rachel and I could really be here for 3 to 4 hours talking. I'm going to skip several, but I want to talk a little bit about this impulse control and stress management. If you haven't done those other things first, those first 3, how are you going to get here? If you're not aware of yourself, if you can't label those emotions, if you can't identify what you're thinking and feeling, how are you going to master your thoughts and impulses? How are you going to resist temptation? How are you going to resist distractions, which is something Sasha Rose struggles with mightily? A bite mark on the pencil, she could be fascinated with that for minutes at a time.
Hangnail, scab.
Yep, absolutely.
Bug bite.
And thinking before acting. That's really key. By the way, I do have friends who don't. Never mind. Okay, so children need adults who demonstrate and use techniques for calming. And I say demonstrate. I'm not just going to show you. By the way, deep breathing is fabulous for children. I will give you a resource. I'm not selling this. I don't get a commission. There's a wonderful, and it's ancient. It's Quiet Moments with Greg and Steve. You can get it on Amazon. I don't work for Amazon. But it has some very calming, and there, by the way, there were a couple of vendors here who had music therapy stuff. This is not therapy. Greg and Steve are performers who've been doing kids' music forever. The opposite side of that is On the Move with Greg and Steve, and they boogie, 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 boogie. But this one takes them on magical tours with deep breathing. Fabulous for pre-nap time. Are you getting it? Wonderful for at night. They take them to an island, a tropical island, and the music is wonderful. And at the end, they give them a magic coin. They talk about stress. They give them a magic coin. They put it in their pocket. And when you're feeling those strong, scary feelings, just reach inside and you can feel calm again. It's fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. So, tools, there are lots of tools. You see that guy, that turtle? Okay, that's Tucker Turtle. You can find him in the Cephal, C-S-E-F-E-L, pyramid model. There are links to it on that wiki. And that demonstrates, it's a social story that demonstrates how to resolve problems. When you're feeling that icky feeling or you're about to get in trouble, stop, and then he tucks his head in, and then he thinks of solutions, etc. Those are the kinds of tools that are fabulous. There are other kinds of tools that are great. Cards that say, stop, or wait, or think it through, or setting a timer to wait for turn. Making a chart that says, first, you put on your pajamas, then you have story time. Those are important. Classrooms should all have a quiet space, by the way, that is not the library. Oh, you're welcome. I'll tell you, it's a conflict. It's a
My son's
conflict.
teacher built one
Yeah.
in her classroom last year.
Well, I'll tell you one of the things that, and I've worked with so many teachers in so many classrooms, and I was a Head Start teacher. We didn't make any money. So I went to a yard sale, and I got a card table, and I went to Morgan Memorials, and I bought a set of shears, and I double-sided taped them here. The children had a quiet space they could go under, but I could see them, which was key. But they could feel alone. They could take a book, a bear. There were cushions under there. They had a place that they knew. And when children know how to use these, it's amazing. I've seen a child get up from circle time when he knew he was opening his mouth when he shouldn't have. He kept talking and interrupting the teacher. And the teacher started to say, Jared, do you? And he was up and gone. He'd get up. He went over to, they had a little, one of those nylon tents in the classroom. He went in. He was there for about 20 seconds. Then he got out and he watched from a distance. And when he was ready, he came back and he was fine. That's like magic, especially for that teacher who took a long time to get him there. Okay, so I'm going to do some skipping. I'm scared about the time. Skip, skip. You will find, I'm going to, if anyone is a speed reader, man, this will really get you exercising. I'm going to skip through, skip through, skip through. We have created the Children Need Adults Who for every one of these standards. And I'm looking for the one that says, here we go. Begin today. That's you. Begin today. Here are some ways to begin. First, perceiving behavior. This is an attitude shift. It opens the door to teaching and learning. See, remember I talked about the iceberg? Think of a child as behaving badly or having challenging behavior disposes people to think of the punishment, the timeout chair. What am I going to do about this kid? But if you begin to think of the child, whether it's your child at home or in a professional situation, as a child who is struggling to handle something that's just beyond his ability, it gives you an opportunity to say, what is that child thinking? I see the behavior. What's the child thinking? And then to go deeper and say, what's he feeling that's causing this? Behavior has function. It may be attention-seeking. It may be to get his needs met and a host of other things. But guess what? It's functional. It's working for them in some way. So
There's always a reason. There's always a reason that they're doing what they're doing. You might not know it or be able to identify it. They most likely don't know it and can't identify it. I can ask Jake, what do you need? What are you hoping to accomplish by what you're doing right now? I don't know. But there's something he's trying to accomplish. So it's just getting him through that, because punishing and being negative, it's just never going to work with him. It's just never going to work. You have to find out what's causing it whether it be an external sensory issue, whether it be the button on his pants, whether it be you're cooking bacon and he hates the smell of it. You never know. It could be anything. Find out what the trigger is. There's always a trigger.
And you start by acknowledging, oh, wow, you're having some kind of strong feelings here. You know, when I see you go like this, ah,
Right.
you're either angry or maybe you're frustrated. Can you nod your head? Angry? Frustrated? Oh, are you ready to talk about it? I'll tell you what, it looks like you need some time. I'm going to step back, and I'm going to take some time to breathe myself and think about it. And then when you're ready, you can come and talk to me. You don't have to do it right away. When you're ready. Real important words to say to children. So the shift is where it begins, a shift in your thinking. This is such an important quote to me. The way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. Got it? If you call a child stupid, they will fulfill your prophecy. If you call a child a brat, they can fulfill that real easy. If you say a child is stubborn, but if you look at other things, let me just, I think that a child takes the language we use about them and they weave this invisible cloak and they kind of cover themselves in it. They wrap up tightly. And all those labels, all those words, all those names, whether it's at home, out in the street, in the community, or in the classroom, that becomes who they are.
And the tone you use as well.
And by the way, we may think we're saying something positive. So you call a little girl pretty all her life. Then she gets to be 8. And her legs start growing really long. And her ears start sticking out, about 8, 9 years old, right? Her neck may get really long. And she doesn't look like the same kid because her face is growing differently. They've lost their babiness. And they've, of course, had holes in their mouths for, And it's different. And you know what? People may stop calling her pretty because she doesn't have those pink cheeks and the round face, and she's not chubby and cute. Who is she then? If she's heard, you're pretty, you're pretty, you're pretty, and she's wrapped herself up in it, who is she then? But if you say to her, Sasha, you can dance. Sasha, I see that you read that book by yourself. Sasha Rose, you can ride a bike. You know, you really figured that out nicely. And by the way, I put these here for a reason. I think the Post-its are magic. You can write them. Writing kids' notes is fabulous. Doesn't even matter if they can read. It's a note and something with their name on it. Amazing. So
Makes them feel special. I do that one too.
yeah.
I leave them notes. When I would work, I would leave them notes in the morning. I was gone before they would wake up. I would leave little notes on the table. I would put little notes in their lunches. And they couldn't read. They couldn't read yet. But they knew that I was thinking about them, that I cared about them.
You know,
Never
you
had to
really
question.
are like me.
I know.
My daughter, Lisa Jean, who's now 40, hello, on her brown paper bag every day, she had a picture. I always drew a picture.
Yep.
It might have been a flower, it might have been a smiley face, and put a note inside every day.
My mom did it too. My mom used to do it
Oh,
for me
of
and
course
his
your
friends.
mom did.
My mom
Okay,
used to do it for our friends too because they got jealous.
so let's
Yeah.
think about how we talk to them. I'm going to wrap up. I promise I'll get you out of here on time. Okay, ready? You see this thing, good job? Take it out of your vocabulary. Unless it's followed by, good job. You washed that whole table and got every spot. Why? Because when we use specific and concrete language for children, they know what to build their next success on. But if I say, oh, good job, nice, super, terrific, oh, that's beautiful. What's the difference between super and terrific? Child is washing the table, and children with 1 foot in fantasy and 1 foot in reality, all of a sudden you hear, And at the end of this, you say, good job. Well, the child was racing the Daytona 500 in a spaceship. They don't remember that. So if you say, Matthew, you washed the whole center of that table and got it really clean. We're not saying that the edges didn't even get touched. We won't say that.
Matthew's
but
not
the
a
next time, I'm going to say, Matthew, I remember yesterday when you got that whole inside of the table really clean. I wonder if you could get the inside and the outside today. Guess what? I've given him language he can use. He knows what the expectations and the desired behaviors are. You think he's going to back off from that? They love it. And you know what else? It also helps me remind me what they're accomplishing. I'm so proud. It doesn't matter. We all want our parents to be proud of us. We all want our teachers to be proud of us, but I'm not going to be there next year if I'm your teacher. What should that be? I hope you're proud of yourself. Do you feel proud? They take that with them. You know that cloak? Oh boy, I'm proud of myself. I made a purple turtle. Nobody else did it. Now I've got something I can take with me. Does that make sense to you guys? How about there in the cheap seats? Does that make sense to you? All right, good. Okay. You need to. You need to take more notes. You need to put your feet on the ground. Oh, by the way, you need to go to the bathroom. How do I know what you need? Who really knows what you need? You're supposed to know. So when the child stands there doing the pee-pee dance, and they don't want to leave the water table, you know, Rosie, you know, when most people do that dance, it means they have to go to the bathroom. What are you feeling? Help them become aware of what they're feeling physically, as well as emotionally. That looks like the pee-pee dance to me. Come on, I'll walk with you. So this is encouraging children to take note of what they're thinking and feeling. By the way, girl, you need to get rid of that guy from your life. How insulting is that? We want children to be able to know what they need, recognize their own needs, and in that way, that builds a bridge to knowing what other people need. Last one. Remember the table? Okay? So the child is doing several things at once in their brain, in their imagination, and you say, stop, don't do that. What? Don't do the race? Don't fly in space? Don't wash the table? Use specific language. Jeremy, another J boy, Jeremy. In the classroom, tables are for working and eating at. I have a chair for you, because that Jeremy will climb on that table every time. Okay? So use language that matters. We're in our last 2 slides, guys. Are you ready? Oh, and I have just 60 seconds. This is one of my very favorite quotes in the whole world by Chaim Ganot. Chaim Ganot wrote a lot about gaining children's cooperation and using the appropriate language. He was way before his time. Let me read this to you. I've come to a frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element in the classroom or the home. It is my personal approach that creates the climate. It's my daily mood that makes the weather. As a teacher, I possess tremendous power to make a child's life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or humor, hurt or heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis will be escalated or de-escalated, and a child humanized or dehumanized. So I ask you to make good decisions about how you interact with each child. All of this information is available on the wiki for you. And before you leave, I will ask you one thing. I'm hoping that you thought about something in this session. I am hoping that something has reinforced or furthered your thinking, because reinforcing what you already know is a lot of what I do, because you know a lot of this stuff. Think about how it will impact your interactions. And what more you'd like to know about the topic, feel free to email me and tell me where you met me. And is anyone willing to shout out one thing that they take away from this session? Da, 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 da. Yes?
I always write a quote on my vision statement that I send to the school. I'll be feeling that wonderful I am.
Wonderful.
And complimenting them on the things that they do from that quote.
Yes.
Positive.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes. Oh, wait, I need a bigger voice, please. Choose your words wisely. Thank you very much. And loudly if I'm listening. Anything else? And thank you for visiting. Thank you all. Go home and love your kids and enjoy and have fun.